So there's no think about it.
Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. The Lord has blessed you so many ways. The Lord has blessed you so many ways. So rise up right now, sing this prayer. Whoa, wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. Wake up and rise up right away. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. Wake up and rise up right away. Lord, the Lord has blessed you so many ways. The Lord has blessed you so many ways. So rise up right now, sing this prayer. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's the time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. Wake up and rise up right away. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's a time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. So I think it would be nice maybe if we held hands.
because regardless of where your family is all around the world, this is where it is now. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love, love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. Wake up, rise up, sweet family. It's time for the Lord, and remember love is here. Love, love is all we see. If you wake up and rise up right away. If you wake up and rise up right away.
Sweet.
So I think there's a couple of new people here. Leone, and is Josh here? Is he still slaving in the field? Okay, well, for Leone, this is what we call kirtan, simply singing together, sometimes dancing together, clapping your hands, whatever. This is what I have come to consider to be maybe the most fundamental human behavior that there is. Because we see all around the world, in every single different culture, in geographically diverse, temporally diverse cultures, whenever people have spare time, they sing and dance. I would go so far as to say that singing is even more natural to us than talking, that maybe talking is a fallen state somehow. You see none of the birds talk, they all sing. And even if we go back in this yogic literature here, we see that the language it was written in is a sung language. Sanskrit was not a spoken language, it was a sung language. And there are other languages in the world similar. So anyway, this is what humans do when they got spare time. And there seems to be some fundamental effect that it has on us, which makes us more happy, feel more connected to the people around us, make us... In fact, I published a paper in Human Nature. Does anyone subscribe to Human Nature journal?
I've read it.
That's a shame. Neither do I. Anyway, if you look up Human Nature Collective Group Ritual, you'll see showing that this sort of behavior affects group cooperation, how you feel towards each other, feeling that I am a part of you people and you are a part of me, and I want to put your good ahead of my own good. And so it's just a nice thing that's fun, and it has really great effects of cleansing the mirror of the heart. And it's probably, for me, I mean everyone's different, but for me it's my favorite form of meditation. It's a more enjoyable meditation for me than sitting Zen, or pumpkin planting meditation, or cleaning meditation, or whatever other work that you do. Kirtan meditation is just easy and awesome. And we're going to sing Hare Krishna now. It's just behind you. Made famous by the Hare Krishnas.
You gonna start it in minor? Sick.
Now it's time just to relax your bodies, relax your voice, relax your eyelids, relax your shoulders, and bring your attention back to your breath. I want you to just let go of the excitement of the kirtan. That's the past now. I want you to let go of your list of jobs to do in the garden. Let Let go of any plans that you've been making, plans about the future. And just bring your awareness to how it feels in your body as you're breathing. This is not a special technique of breathing or a special exercise that you have to master. It's simply taking time to be aware that you are breathing at all. So make it deep and slow, and as you're breathing in, breathe in all that you wish to become. And breathe out all that is no longer serving you. And be aware that all that you wish to become is available to you at every moment. So much of the time we distract ourselves by regrets about the past and anxieties and planning about the future. And this comes from our not feeling safe in of ourselves. So as we're just breathing here in a room with our friends, bring your attention to the fact that you are totally safe at this moment. There is nothing at all that you need. There is nothing at all that is threatening to harm you. This next hour is going to be 100% secure and safe and a pleasant experience for your body. So in that knowingness of safety and security, put your emotions to the side, put them outside with your shoes, and put outside your mind and your thoughts, your opinions, your belief systems, these things that limit us. These are the only things that limit us. And they especially limit us from learning new information. The mind will always reject what is foreign, what is new. So for the next hour we're going to leave our minds to the side, leave our opinions to the side, leave our judgments to the side. And just bring your attention to the feeling of gratitude within you. Where is that feeling in your physical body? And when you're feeling ready, come back to the room. So, does anyone recall what we were discussing this time last week? think most of you were here last week. Some of you not, but most of you. Does anyone have any recollection?
Whatsoever.
Cells, liquids, acid.
Cells, liquids,
Acid and
acids, bases,
Acid and base was a lot of that class.
babies. You have to jog my memory because I forget what we were talking about too.
Fruit.
Fruit, we were talking quite a bit about fruit. Isn't it amazing how for most fruits, they're the perfect size for your hand. I want to talk a little bit just
Jackfruit.
apart from a jackfruit.
Watermelon.
Watermelon, these sorts of cherry. Cherry. Okay, you get my vibe. Interesting how we've got these fingers and thumbs just specially designed for peeling fruit and picking it.
Also the knife and fork.
Also the knife and the fork. I like this. I want to just intro this discussion with some talk about fruit, because the rest of the discussion is not going to be about fruit. Okay? I like to think of fruit as karma-free. If you have a knowingness or a belief system about karma, it's a great belief system. But I like to feel that fruit is karma-free, because when we look to animals as a source of food, what do we have to do with an animal before we eat meat? Kill it. And that's a pretty unpleasant experience, right? And in fact, when you grow animals just for meat, the whole of life, their life turns into a pretty unpleasant experience in commercial farming. But at least there's suffering at the end. So we may think, well, I don't really want to cause suffering and end the life of such a sentient and emotional being. So you may decide to become a vegetarian or a vegan and turn to vegetables and grains and these sorts of things. But the problem with a lot of vegetables is that when you pick a carrot, you still have to rip it out by its hair. Has anyone pulled a carrot out before? Has anyone heard it screaming?
Like in Harry Potter.
I believe... does anyone know Alan Watts? He's a philosopher from last century. Does anyone know... Is it Aldous Huxley?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one time Alan Watts asked Aldous Huxley, he challenged him on, why are you a vegetarian? Because after all, don't you know plants feel pain as well? And Mr. Huxley said, yes, but they don't scream as loud. So I thought that was interesting. Now when we turn to the fruits, all you have to do with a ripe fruit that is perfectly ready in its chemical forms with all its bonds just perfectly ready for human consumption, you don't have to even touch the tree. You just put your hand out, and when it's perfectly ripe, it'll fall into your hand and you just catch it. Isn't that great? The tree knows that it wanted to, just like most of us here, we want to plant our seed. We want to procreate, and this is a pattern throughout nature. Okay? And the tree had these seeds, and it wanted to procreate, it wanted to proliferate. Okay? And it thought, how on earth, I can't walk, how am I going to sow my seeds? And it saw some early primates, you know, maybe some humanoid creatures walking around. Every so often it would come past, and it thought, gosh, they look pretty able-bodied. They look like they can move around the place. If only I could give my seed to one of those humans, it could carry it, you know, for a few kilometers downstream and you know, plant it again. So it thought, how on earth can I get this human? I can't even speak. How do I get it to do this work for me? So it came up with a cunning plan. And as the human was walking past, the tree used its powerful sense of intuition to work out exactly what flavors the human liked, what its strongest senses were. And it discovered that the strongest sense of the human being is its tongue and taste. And so it began to formulate a special recipe, just like a woman might do if she wants to seduce a man. Start working on a nice recipe, maybe some apple crumble, lovely ham sandwich. And anyway, so it started to formulate this, and after a few years, it had come up with the perfect substance to wrap its fruit up, wrap its seeds up in, and it called it fruit. And so next time there was a human coming along, it made sure that this fruit was just ready, and it dropped it right in the middle of the human's path. The human picked it up, ate it, found that it got strong and nourished and hydrated and alkalized and detoxified and regenerated. And it carried those seeds inside its stomach until a few hours after the meal when it was ready to go to the bathroom, and then it planted the seeds in a nice pile of soil, and it grew a great fruit tree. So this is the symbiotic relationship between fruits and human beings. We have either been designed together as an organism, or we have co-evolved together as an organism. Just like you can't really talk about flowers without talking about bees. When you start to talk about bees or flowers, you realize that, well, actually, this isn't two separate things. It's one pattern. It's one pattern of behavior, one organism. Just like I can't talk about me walking unless I start talking about the ground that I'm walking upon, because I'm not simply dangling my legs in the air, am I? I can't talk about me moving without talking about how I am moving in relationship to you. Because if you have two balls in space, you can't tell which one's moving. Okay? And just like that, humans and fruit trees, we're really one organism working together. Okay, so I've been observing that sometimes I come into a group of people over the past week, and there's a sneaky conversation going on, which quickly stops when I arrive. And it usually has something to do with fruit, okay? And how we can't live on fruit alone, and blah, 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 this and that. And so I just want to say that we've been talking a lot about fruit because, yes, fruit is the main diet of frugivores, of the primates, of which we are one. Say a chimpanzee, for example, has a diet of about 80% fruit. Fruit is scorned upon typically by much of the medical association, even a lot of naturopaths. When I was in Sweden, there was a big advertising campaign for a new protein bar, and the tagline was "Bananas are for monkeys." As if that was going to put me off. In fact, it gave me much enthusiasm about bananas. Anyway, you'll hear lots of people talking about how fruit has too much sugar, as if our body runs on something other than sugar. All this, fruit causes your teeth to fall out.
No protein.
Where's the protein? Where do you get your protein? What about milk for your bones? All these sorts of things. So I wanted to talk about balanced diet today a little bit, in that for most people, we talked about how fruit is a very detoxifying food, and that if someone comes to me and says, "Hey Rohan, I've got an aggressive brain tumor," or "Hey Rohan, my kidneys are failing," or something pretty serious like this, then we'll put them on really high fruit, okay? Because that's got the three elements that we talked about last week. Does anyone remember the
Astringency.
Astringency of fruit? That's that pulling, cleaning on the lymphatic system, which we discussed.
Alkalinity.
The alkalinity of a ripe fruit, bringing the body's chemical balance back into its nice feminine nature. And what was the third one? High vibes. The electromagnetism of a ripe fruit, which is the highest vibrational food that we have on the planet. But for most people in general life, who are happy with their level of their health. They just want to feel a bit more energized. They just want to shake off some depression. They just want to lose some weight. I just want to briefly talk about a nice balanced diet. We talked about how frugivores don't just eat fruit, but they tend to eat about 20% leafy greens, soft leafy greens. This is what I call herbs or herbs, and what most of you will call vegetables. I think vegetables is a misnomer of a word, because most vegetables are either a fruit or an herb. My theory is that vegetables just means vegetation that you put on your table. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Plants that you eat, vegetable, I don't know. So those soft leafy greens are things like spinach, celery, dandelions, plantain, dock, kale, silver beet,
Pak choy.
bok choy,
Pak choy. Pak choy.
any of this kind of thing. And I would encourage any of you that are wanting to live a nice balanced diet to get a lot of that, really high mineral stuff. We also talked about nuts and seeds. Primates eat a little bit of nuts and seeds, and so I wanted to talk a bit about that because they're great. I always feel very strong when I eat nuts and seeds.
But don't you think that the seeds are made to be planted, for example, and not to be eaten?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would say fruit all the way, for sure. But they seem to make a pretty good food source. So nuts. Unfortunately, if you go and buy nuts, and in fact most seeds, in the supermarket, even if they say they are raw, they're cooked, okay? And you can get a picture of this if you try and sprout an almond. It won't happen. Because in fact 80% of the world's almonds come from California, and it's against the law in California to sell raw almonds. Okay, you have to cook them, which means that only massive corporates can grow almonds. The little farmers can't really afford to have their cooking plant, and so on down the track. If you're eating nuts and seeds, the first rule is to soak them. Okay, soak them in water for 8 hours or 24 hours. Things like almonds, for example, have a lot of difficult things on the skin, and when we soak them, it breaks that down. Also, we're wanting to sprout them. We're wanting to make them come alive, because at the moment, those dried seeds, say those dried mung beans. Does anyone know mung bean? Yeah, you know mung bean?
I got some in the seeding tray sprouting right now.
Okay, great. They're very common. I'm not sure what the Italian word is.
Mung beans.
Mung bean. Okay, they're the cheapest thing. They're usually not cooked, so you can sprout them. But what you want to do, when they're dormant, they're just asleep, okay? Nothing's going on. We want to put them in water so that they think, whoa, something's happening, let's grow, let's come alive. And they become activated. The nutrition becomes alive in there. So when we soak them, you'll see that they start to sprout a little bit, they soften up, because the problem is that with most seeds, because they're so hard, we tend to cook them. This is a negative approach. If you just soak them in cold water, they'll come alive, they'll start sprouting, they become delicious, they become really strong, and they're a great thing to eat. Okay, so lots of mung beans, that's awesome. Nuts, if you can get them raw, then awesome, but I like to recognize that in nature, nuts have a shell on them. And if you had to shell all your nuts, you'd probably only have a few, right? In nature, you don't find a big bag of pre-shelled cashew nuts that you can just munch on, okay? You probably find a few nuts here, crack them open with a rock. If anyone's tried to shell their own walnuts, it's kind of a painstaking process, and you only ever end up having 4 or 5 of them, right? So this is just something to take into consideration. Nuts are they're very heavy fats and proteins, and so making 3-5% of your diet, something like this, This would be mimicking the diet of the chimpanzee and its friends, and this is what we'd call a pretty balanced diet for most people. The reason that I use the word balanced is that in the long term, our diet must match our lifestyle. Okay? Does everyone understand what I mean when I say that? If you're living a very stressful lifestyle, if you're a business exec on Wall Street, you know, shouting out numbers, your heart's racing very fast, you're going to be attracted to a certain diet because it suits your lifestyle, it matches your lifestyle, and it matches your consciousness. Okay? How you're thinking, your awareness. If you put someone in that environment onto a fruit juice diet, they're going to struggle because there's a real discrepancy between the acid nature of their lifestyle and the alkaline nature of their diet. Okay? So what you find in people, you may find this in yourself, I've certainly found it in myself, that as I've gone down the road of cleaning up my diet, of changing my diet, my lifestyle has begun to change slowly to match that. Okay? We can find that sometimes if we go from a very heavy diet into a very clean, say fruit or a green juice diet, our emotions can be a bit... Has anyone experienced that the past week or so? Yeah, okay, because we are, for all of our lives, we've had the magic recipe which suppresses our emotions. And the magic recipe is a complex carbohydrate mixed together with a fat with a bunch of salt on it. Okay? So I guarantee that all your favourite foods, apart from fruits and herbs, are that, right? What's an example? Lasagna. Complex carbohydrate with a bunch of oil, maybe some mince or something, animal fat in there, bunch of salt. You know, magic. Just nothing grabs the addictive tendencies of the tongue like that recipe. So if you're making a salad and you're feeling, oh man, my salad's a bit bland, what can I do to make this a bit more ravishing? Then just add a complex carbohydrate, an oil, you know, add some olive oil. What happens to a salad when you add some feta on top, right? Suddenly, boom, awesome, you know. What happens to a salad when you add some oil and some salt on? You know, oh great, or some croutons, or anything, you know, or some avocado, you know. This is the magic recipe. So the food industry plays upon this with you an awful lot, and most of us are really addicted to that combination, and if we try and go without one of those unholy trinities, then we find it really difficult. But our emotions, when we clean up our diet, our emotions tend to be up and down because we no longer have our number one self-medication of the heavy food to push those emotions down. Do I have to explain comfort eating to anyone? Or can you all understand the science behind that? That when you're anxious, stressed, upset, the first thing you tend to do is make a sandwich or find a piece of cake or chocolate or just anything, or a meat pie or whatever you can find that's heavy and will kind of knock yourself out, you know? In a similar way that people will drink heavily. It's kind of an unconscious suicide, I call it. It's just killing yourself enough that you don't really have to deal with your shit, you know? Most people are too scared to actually do the real thing, so we tend to just kill ourselves slowly with our lifestyle. A lifestyle that's designed to hide our feelings from us. Don't let, you know, I'm happy to get, you know, sick and tired and obese and become an energy sucker to the people around me. Just don't let me feel my childhood traumas, you know? So when we start to clean up our diet, sometimes things go like this. And so we must always be evolving our diet our lifestyle at the same speed, our consciousness, our emotional well-being. You know, I started cleaning up my diet a lot, and I started going through a lot of spiritual awakening, you know, expanding my consciousness, that sort of thing, a few years ago. And it got to the stage where I could see that the weakest link, the thing that was holding me back, was not my physiology. You know, my body was pretty good, you know. My body could handle eating just fruit and herbs, and it was really happy. My consciousness, my awareness was totally on point with that, you know. But I had been sweeping my emotional body under the rug for a few years. And I found that that was what was limiting me. When me and my roommate would go on a juice feast, you know, we'd just be drinking juice for a while, she'd be rocking it, you know, no trouble for her, because she didn't have this emotional crap. But I'd start, and a couple of days in, you know, I'd just start to get very irritated, just all sorts of interesting feelings come up. And so I realized that, okay, well, this is something that you know, if I'm going to evolve, this is the area that I need to evolve in. And so I'm still working on that. So I think that brings us to, Ellen had a suggestion to talk about being with your feelings. And so I took that suggestion and just supercharged it. And I thought that since we've talked about how the babies, what are the 3 needs of a baby?
Clean feed, love.
Feed, clean, and love. Okay? We talked about how cells are just like babies, and it doesn't matter how good the food is that you feed a baby, if you don't change its nappies, it's going to be bad.
I wasn't with the class, so don't look at me like I didn't listen.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm looking at Leona. Leona? Because she wasn't here. Leonie. Okay, so we've talked about feeding and cleaning a bit, so I think we should talk about love a little bit. So obviously this is not a topic that can really be talked about. Anything that I say is going to chop love up into little bite-sized pieces, and anything I say is going to ignore more than it includes. Do you understand that?
Mm.
Okay. So anything I say, I'm really not saying more than I am saying. But since we've kind of got to deal with words, let's do the best we can. So I think everyone's got different definitions of what love is, as we all try and do calculus on the universe. The universe is a very wiggly thing. Has anyone noticed that? Has anyone looked at your body and thought, gosh, that's very wiggly? Yeah, or looked at a tree outside and thought, gosh, that tree's got wiggles all over it. Because the prime difference between human artistry and nature's artistry is that we seem to love straight lines, whereas nature seems to love wiggles. Has anyone noticed that? Wherever humans go, rectangles appear. It's the strangest thing. And so we do the same thing with our limited minds, is that we try and take things that are wiggly, like love, and we try to make them into squares. And so we use words and definitions to try box it off. And this is exactly what calculus is. Does anyone are familiar with calculus? It's a form of mathematics. You know, x equals b squared to the power of y minus t over 6, for example. This is calculus. And what calculus is trying to chop up wiggly things into straight lines. It's the idea that you see this wiggle on this guitar. It's a constant big wiggle. But my mind can't handle wiggles. I can only handle straight lines. So I think if I can chop this into a smaller, tiny enough little piece, maybe I can make it look pretty much like a straight line. And then I can count how many squares are in that straight line, and then I can make a calculation about this thing. But any calculation is not that thing, okay? So this is our constant attempt to make sense of the wiggly world, and this is what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes or so as we try to use words to talk about love. So I think I'll just talk about two definitions that I've come across in my life that I really like. And it'll just give you something to think about, really. Okay. Man, self-love, it's such a profound thing. It's a journey that will take you your whole life, or you could figure it out in an instant. Okay? One of the things I have found interesting is that in my journey of learning how to love myself truly, I've ended up doing things that I thought were actually quite unloving. For example, when I grew up, I was told that it's really loving to go out for a drink with your friends. And it's really loving to go and party, stay up really late, have a really awesome big hamburger, and then sleep in the next day. But when you do that, you end up feeling pretty crappy the next day. Just like if you're taught that it's really loving to yourself to eat a big chocolate cake. Right? Has anyone grown up with that kind of idea? Like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to treat myself real good. I'm going to whip up a big thing of chocolate cake. But it turns out that that's not actually treating ourselves very good at all. What's actually treating ourselves really nice is whipping up, instead of a chocolate cake, whipping up a green juice and then going to bed early with your window open and then getting up at about 5 in the morning and going for a run, and then you feel awesome, right? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a difficult shift, but I remember it was strange for me realizing that, hang on, it's actually more loving for me to say, no, I don't want to go out for dinner with you guys. I'm actually just going to have an early night inside. I'm going to watch some inspirational video on YouTube that's teaching me how to love myself more, and then I'm going to go to bed. Turns out that these really simple things are incredibly loving. In that, who's ever regretted going for a swim in the ocean? Yeah, that sounds like a really good story.
I can't do cold. I really can't do cold. You get up and the sun is shining, you jump in the ocean, it's really cold, you get up and it starts raining, and I really regretted going in the ocean.
Oh, okay. Anyone else? Has anyone ever regretted going to bed early and getting up early? Has anyone regretted having a healthy meal choice instead of an unhealthy meal choice?
Leanne has last Sunday.
Yeah. Well, you can see that for all of these, one person's had a regret, but most of us, you tend to, like swimming in an ocean, right? It tends to take a bit of balls to work up to it, but you never regret doing it afterwards. Going to see a movie and having a big thing of popcorn while you're in the movie, that's easy. You can do it in a flash, right? You can have a big chocolate cake in a flash. Doesn't take no balls to build up to that. But we tend to have some regret feelings afterwards, Either our body regrets it by creating a bunch of mucus and flatulence and fat and whatever, or we regret it if we haven't learnt to forgive ourselves. And that, I think, brings us on to the first definition of love that I think we'll talk about. And that both of these definitions are twofold, which reflects the nature of this universe. The first one is, the first part of love is having the eyes to see the need. Okay, does everyone understand that? This is a very pragmatic sort of love, which I've become to be very fond of. Pragmatic means practical, you can do it with your hands. It's not a strange kind of feeling in your lower chakras or your higher ones. Okay, it is to be able to see the need and then have the eyes to see the need and the heart to fulfill it. Everyone got that? This is the essence of love. This is the essence of business. This is the essence of any relationship, is having these two, because without one of them, it's not really love at all. If I am in the house and I see that there's a bunch of dishes that need doing, okay? That's part of it. I had the eyes to see the need, okay? But I kind of just walked past and just let it go because I didn't have the heart to fulfill it. Can everyone imagine that scenario? Does that sound like love? Can I get a resounding something?
No.
No. Okay, what if my mum says, hey, go do the dishes, and I go and start doing the dishes. I'm like, yeah, Mum, I'll do the dishes. Man, I got a lot of heart for this. Right, yeah. Doing a bunch of dishes, finish it up, head off, and then my mum comes in and says, oh, hang on, what about that one over there? And why didn't you wipe the counter down? And there's still some dishes in the other room. You know, that's not really effective love either, is it? So, you know, I don't have too much to say about this definition, but I think it's an interesting one to think about, especially because you're all here as servants on the farm doing your work. And I would encourage you, if you want to do some pumpkin planting meditation or some cleaning meditation or whatever service you do, to think about these two things, about bringing your attention to the working surface and thinking about, do I have the eyes to see the need, what needs to be done here, and do I have the heart to fulfill it? And when you start thinking this way, pretty quickly you'll start to see, oh, hang on, I don't really have the heart to do that. And then Madrea might point out, oh, you didn't really have the eyes to see that. And you can start to bring some more attention to both perceiving and serving. So that's the first definition. The second one, which I think relates more to Ellen's topic, is the first part is brutal honesty. Okay, does everyone know what that means? Brutal honesty. Brutal honesty both about yourself and about the nature of things. We talked a little bit about, like, for example, when we're talking about diet, we talked about comfort eating, for example. It's easy to trick yourself into thinking, oh, you know, I just like chocolate cake. You know, oh, I just like, you know, meat. And we really, to make any progress, we need to be brutally honest about these things. That maybe it's not that you're just a person, you're a soul that has some affinity to chocolate cake and you just love it. But maybe you've actually got a lot of unprocessed emotional stuff there, and that you're using chocolate cake or meat pies or Danish pastries. Sorry, man. You're from Danish, right?
I'm not from Danish, I'm from Denmark. I like my pastries.
And we can start to see that maybe we're not doing this because we're hungry and we need that nutritional value of those things, but actually there's some repressed emotions there that we're wanting to keep repressed, and so we seek these heavy foods to self-medicate, to comfort eat. So if we do that first step of brutal honesty, it takes us to a rather dangerous spot, in that we can easily fall into self-loathing. Now, humanity is already in an epidemic of chronic self-loathing. Has anyone experienced self-loathing before?
What is that? So
When you just...
I don't like myself.
I don't
I'm not
like
good
myself.
hate yourself.
Does anyone have any mental patterns in their mind of self-loathing?
I always abandon such shit.
Yeah?
I always get this wrong. I'm always stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, in my journey, I've certainly had to, and, you know, continue to not fight, because fight is not a nice word, but to notice that I have mental thought patterns that will tell me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not lovable, all these sorts of things. And when it comes to eating, I know that boys and girls, but girls are particularly prone to it, is eating something that they know they would have been better not to, and then feeling horribly guilty about it. Can anyone relate to that? It doesn't have to be eating, it can be any aspect of your life where you do something and then you feel horribly guilty about it. And it kind of eats away at you. So this is what brutal honesty takes, that brutal honesty will put that on the fast track, because now you'll know that you're dealing with some deep emotional traumas and you can't handle it, and so you eat a bunch of cake to deal with it, and it's really easy to get into a super negative pattern about this. Unless we have the second part of the equation, and that is total and unequivocal acceptance of yourself. And this is exactly what I have found to be the most powerful part of my journey in using diet as a spiritual journey, is learning to accept myself in moments of weakness. Okay? I guess we've been talking pretty intensely about fruit diets, and that's kind of high up there on the diet chain. After eating just fruit, there's not much further you can go. You can get into fruit juice, and you can get into water fasting, and you're pretty much as far as you can go. And some of you may feel that I'm being zealous about this or religious about it, and I want to assure you that that is the last thing that you want to be. Okay? There's a difference between spirituality and religiosity, and that spirituality is something beautiful, it's a realization. Religiosity is the attempt to put that realization into a box, and the box is usually made up of rules. Can anyone follow? Can anyone follow that? I think I told this story a while ago. I heard it somewhere, but it was about a great guru, probably in India, because that's where gurus come from. And he would lead his people in very beautiful meditations each morning. And he had such an effulgence of grace about him that people would just come and want to be around him, okay? Including a local cat. This local cat would come and it just wanted to be at the feet of the guru, and it would come every morning as they meditated and chanted. But over the years, the guru passed away, and some new followers took over the position. And what often happens is that they didn't necessarily have the realization that the original teacher had. They only had his words. And so they thought, hang on, we'll go do these meditations in the morning, because that's what the guru did, and there was always a cat here, so let's make sure that we put some milk out, and hopefully some cats will come. So they ended up putting milk out, and these cats would come and they'd drink their milk while the people were meditating. But as time goes on, these followers kind of passed away, and new ones would come, but they always remembered there's always got to be a cat there, okay? So they would find some stray cats, and they would put a collar around their neck and tie them to the front of the altar while they meditated, okay? And this is often the journey of spirituality versus religiosity, is that we hear about powerful realizations, and then we have a tendency to use words and rules and put them in little boxes and tie cats up. And we can do the same thing with our diet, then, as well as all other parts of our lifestyle. So, oh yeah?
Is that where the Chinese cat comes from? Because this is always in the Chinese restaurants.
I don't know.
When you go and pay, and there's this little golden cat on the counter that goes like this.
Don't know. But next time, every time you see one of those cats, you shall think about this story from now on. Just casting a spell over you all. So yeah, it's important in anything in your life, and especially this diet stuff, is not to become religious or zealous about it. In fact, I remember for my 24th or 25th birthday, I'd been doing the raw foods for like a year, you know, I was getting really into it. I was a bit evangelical about it. Anyway, it was my birthday, and we were wondering, what do we do for birthday? And I've been thinking about this a bit, how I'd been kind of really hard line, and maybe it wasn't that pleasant for the people around me. So we had KFC for my birthday dinner.
Oh my god.
And I just thought that, although it's not ideal, it's a great exercise sometimes in not taking yourself too seriously, which I guess is a really big lesson about this. When we're eating fruit and salads, and you know, or doing anything to try and to uplift ourselves and to improve the quality of life, we always have to be careful not to take ourselves too seriously. So for me, all I can really speak about is me, but my spiritual journey in terms of food has certainly been around accepting myself when I'm doing something that is not at my highest ideal. For example, I may have an ideal of eating fruit all day and herbs and this sort of thing, but sometimes I just really want to go up to the temple and enjoy a really awesome Hare Krishna meal. For all sorts of reasons, especially for emotional reasons. Yeah? And learning to totally let myself do that, and totally enjoy it, and celebrate it, and all this sort of thing, so that you get to the point where, although you might be on the, you know, super clean lifestyle and everything, with your diet and your meditation and your yoga, you can still totally celebrate when your friend works out a really awesome satay chicken hamburger recipe, you know? Because that's where they're at, and we can celebrate with their joy too. And, you know, that's certainly been my path of self-acceptance and learning to do that. I'm not sure if I really tied that up as well as I could have. But does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
In this way, it's like you said about this balance and not to be too so strict. It's like you always use the chimpanzees, and the chimpanzees, like, they eat a lot of fruits and herbs, but they also eat like insects, some meat that's like birds or reptiles, and even small mammals. Like they also saw like cannibalism in between chimpanzees sometimes.
And wild chimpanzees?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
I've only heard of cannibalism in chimpanzees when they've been domesticated and fed meat and then released back into the wild.
That I saw, maybe the source is wrong, but I saw like examples of cannibalism even in the wild one. So that's why I believe in a diet, like a balanced diet. They say a lot of fruits, a lot of herbs, but you don't have, I think...
Some cannibalism.
Yeah, no, but with like grains, like carbohydrates coming from pasta, some meat as well, because I think it's part of a healthy balance. You don't have to eat like a whole cow every day or just pasta. But I believe that you can balance with everything. And also that you said like good to celebrate, I don't know, your friends or stuff like this. I believe in food as pleasure as well, and I believe in life and healthy, spiritual healthy and physical health as pleasure as well. So that's why I think you don't have to eat a big chocolate cake or just smash one whole pot of Nutella. But I think it's healthy, and I think it's...
Sometimes you can.
Yeah, sometimes you can as well. So that's why I think that's nice you said this part now. Like, you don't have to be so strict. It's all about balance. I think in everything in life, it's all about balance, but you don't have to give up about everything or just fruits from now on. I think it's really nice to eat a lot of fruits, eat a lot of herbs, because I think this is what better fit to our organism. But other things are also good, and like if you make a good balance and a good diet with a little bit of everything, focus on fruits or focus on what you like more. But that's the other thing, and don't forget about your pleasures as well. Like life is to enjoy. We have this. Our difference between animals and us is like we have a higher level of consciousness. So I think this reflects also in pleasure. Like we enjoy a soccer game. I don't know. We enjoy some singing with a guitar, and we also enjoy a glass of wine, a beer, or I don't know, whatever. Some caipirinha for me from Brazil. So I think this is it. Like. It's really nice what you said in the last part. Don't be so strict, like enjoy it.
Yeah.
And just find the balance.
Hare Krishna, and yeah, I totally agree. Balance is an interesting thing because balance tends to, when you visualize it, it's the middle point, right? To know the middle point, you need to know what the extremes are. Now, in our culture, in terms of diet, our scope pretty much goes from lollies and McDonald's through to some rice and a lightly cooked stir fry.
Your mom making
Maybe a salad.
So
Yeah, and this is, this is high level health food, right? So what I've been trying to do is just extend that top perimeter out a little bit to see that actually, if we want to live a balanced life, even in that definition, it's not the midpoint between McDonald's and a nice stir fry. Because after stir fry, we can go into a vegan stir fry. Then we can go into raw food salad, and then we can go into a raw food without the heavy nuts, and then we can go into the green juices, then we can go into the fruits and the fruit juices, then we can go into the water fasting, then we can go into the dry fasting, so there's a lot of levels. And the other thing I'll say about that is that balance is different for different people. One of my favorite teachers, he has a great quote that he said, balance for some people is a 70-day juice fast. And it's true, because some people are super sick, And especially with super sick people, which is who I tend to work with most, and so I come from that perspective, it's not always a time for balance, If you got some cancer issues and that sort of thing, balance can wait, Let's hit it. If you go through a process of detoxification and then you get to a health level that you're happy with, which many of you right now may be happy with your level of health, then it's time for a balanced life diet that gives you enough groundedness to operate in the world, because we need the painting.
Come
We've got Tama, the heavy energies, the kind of ignorant energies. We've got the Raja, which is the passionate Brazilian energies. And then we've got the Sattvic, the peaceful, like goodness, just fruit and herbs and meditation energies. Now, most of this world is not at that top level. So if you want to interact with the world, if you want to have a job doing, marketing and stuff in town, it can be a struggle trying to be balanced in that, okay? So I don't expect the whole world, I don't expect the world to be at a level of consciousness to eat just fruit. We're not there yet, So yeah, balance is different for everyone. If you get to a level of health and then you're like, man, give me a balanced diet, then I think a balanced diet would look something like fruit in the morning, maybe some more fruit for lunch, maybe a salad, something like that. And then dinner tends to be the social meal. For most people, I think dinner is the social meal rather than lunch. So make that your more socially acceptable meal, and so that'll be salad, some cooked vegetables, some pasta every so often, this sort of thing. But I certainly come from a culture of meat 3 times a day, bacon and eggs for breakfast, chicken and ham sandwich for lunch, and then a roast for dinner. I'm not sure how it is in Italy, but this was my New Zealand farmers. This is the British diet, And if you're passionate about the meat eating and you're wanting to do that still, then a couple of days a week, great, have a little bit of whatever. But we're coming from this society of sort of 3 times a day, and that's a totally different paradigm. So yeah, I believe in pleasure and food, and nothing's more pleasurable than a mango dripping down your face. I mean, if you got to know a mango's ripe if you have to eat it in the shower. Okay, so that's a test for you. If you're eating the mango and you're still not in the shower, then it's not ready. You know, so there's certainly a lot of pleasure to be had, but pleasure is different for everyone, and everyone wants different flavors. And I don't just mean taste flavors, I mean life flavors. Sure.
And what I found in that regard is also sometimes our palate tells us we want sweet or we want sour or something, but there are very different ways of meeting that need. Like, for example, for me, what made a huge difference at some point was when I found out about raw coconut oil and raw cocoa, and that if I would eat a bit of that, all my cravings for chocolate, all my cravings for crappy sweets went, because actually your body is telling you it needs a certain type of minerals or a certain type of nutrition. But because we don't know what's good for us, quite often we give it what we think meets that need because it has the same taste, it has the sweet taste, but it doesn't actually nurture the body, so we have more and more cravings for the same stuff.
One of the things that we can learn to do as we become more sensitive to our bodies is start to distinguish between these hungers. And yet you may have a craving for some certain minerals, and that leads you towards some food. But if those cravings are leading you towards pasta, bread, something like this, it's not necessarily the same thing because there's no nutrition there, you know. So, you know, just be sensitive and learn to distinguish between these different types of hunger. While we're on the pasta bend, I don't mean to hate pasta, I love pasta. I was in Rome earlier this year for a week and I ate like heaps of pizza and pasta. And it was awesome, but the pizzas were nowhere near as good as the pizzas that you guys make here. So have another pizza night. Come on.
Sunday. We want to film the pizza night for the...
Who in this room is Italian? Okay, so you guys are in charge.
On Sunday we're going to pick one person to collect the money.
So
if there's one voluntary, Matteo, that would be great.
So just an interesting thing on the pizza pasta bend. I'm sorry for all you Italians, but it's a worldwide phenomenon. Pizza pasta bread. What are the main ingredients of pizza pasta or bread?
Wheat.
Even more specific. Even less specific. Flour, wheat flour, right? Water.
Yeast.
And a tiny bit of yeast. Okay. So it's pretty much wheat flour and water, right? The vast majority of that big thing, right? With a pinch of salt and a pinch of yeast. Did anyone do paper mache when they were a kid?
Paper mache.
Paper mache? You know, when you get some newspaper and you cover a balloon? Does anyone remember what the two ingredients of the glue for paper mache is? Wheat flour and water. Okay, these are the exact same thing, and this is why they tend to be pretty gluey in our system, you know. But like I said, you know, every so often, great. Sweep them through with some nice fibers from some herbs and fruits and that sort of thing.
Maybe mine is a stupid question, but I wrote that if you eat just fruit, you can't have the vitamin B12, and so which is the reason. I mean, you think that you can find everything in the fruit, but you can't find the vitamin B12. So which is the answer?
It's in goji berries.
You'll find that if your adrenal glands that regulate the B12 utilization in the body, if they're functioning well, you won't have B12 issues. If you want to go down the road of you need to eat meat for B12, then you'll see that B12 deficiency is greater in meat eaters than it is in vegetarians. So I think that, I know that argument is very popular, but it doesn't seem to be backed up. I would also say that if you're stressing about B12, but you want to be a vegetarian or vegan or something, then take a B12 supplement, because I think the stress of concerning yourself has more negative effect on the body than anything else.
I think in general we have this perception that at every single meal that we have, we need to have every single nutrient and every single thing at every meal, which is not really the truth, right?
No, well, first of all, most people eat about 5 to 10 ingredients in their life primarily, like wheat, corn, beef, chicken, tomatoes, oranges. I think there's a couple of others. This is the primarily what we eat. So when people talk about eating a wide range of foods, and because they have toast for breakfast and then pasta for lunch and then a pizza at dinner, we're only talking about one. We're still just talking about flour and water, right? So it's a perception of diversity. When we're looking at nutrition, all the nutrition is in the berries and the ripe fruit and the leafy green herbs. That's where the nutrition is. In saying that, I don't think that focusing on nutrition is a really powerful way to look at food, because there's so much more to food than nutrition. You can go to the store and buy all the supplements, but it doesn't work, you know, because no one knows what's in a banana. Yeah, they've found a bunch of different chemistry that's in a banana, but they've only found what they've found. No one's found what they haven't found. Have they? No one talks about the vibes, you know. Anyway, I think that's about it. So, well done for sticking in there.
Pizza Night